do you mean? So if you kiss a woman in the elevator and give her a French kiss, you end up in trouble? Is it talking about that? What are we talking about? Well, now let's go back to see what the Quran says, what Hadith says. In this case, you need Hadith, but there's no Quran about this. It's Hadith. What did the Prophet say? The story is very well known about a man who came to the Prophet and told him, I just finished it with my wife. Should I make wudu or not? What is it? Did I kiss her? Did I touch her? Did I just natural kiss on the lip or the cheek? Or did I touch her hand and said, thank you, honey, I love you? Or did we just finish a wonderful, intimate relationship in the bed? What is it? You see where I'm coming from? We don't know what the story really says in details. We don't know what he really did with his wife. But La Mastur tells us something, it's excessive touching. Most scholars said, well, this refers to excessive touching. If you just had an intimate relationship with your wife, then you have to make wudu. You have to do ablution before wudu. Responding to that specific man. What about if a woman excessively touches her husband? We have all the same case. But of course, you also have to make wudu too. So whether you are a man or a woman, when you excessively touch your spouse for the reason of intimate relationship, then you have to wash up. You see where the language comes in and where the context comes in? Where muhkam, ambiguous, vis-a-vis clear cut comes in. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk about any of this, but you have it in your, please read it. I'm not going to talk about any of this. Please, fundamental human rights according to the Quran. You have the name of the number of the chapter, the number of the verse. You have first revelation. We spoke about that, the first revelation in the Quran, and the last revelation. Look at the last revelation, by the way. The last 4 verses were revealed in the Quran. And fear the day in which you will return to Allah, meaning on the day of judgment. Then everyone will be paid what he earned, and they will not be dealt with unjustly. Important verse. Justice, think about what you do, you'll pay the price for it. So take things seriously. All you who believe, if you contract a debt for a fixed time, write it down. Very important. So their Lord answered them their prayers and said, never will I allow to be lost the work of any of you, be he male or female. You are members one of another. Very important verse in terms of gender, of women and men, and justice. This is the next to the last verse before the Quran was sealed. These are the 4 verses concluding the message of the Quran. This is the conclusion. This is what it is. Do not wish for those things which Allah has made some of you to excel over others. For men there is a reward for what they earned, and for women there is reward for what they have earned. This is a conclusion. This is a conclusion. Indeed, the Muslim men and women, the believing men and women, the obedient men and women, the truthful men and women, the patient men and women, the humble men and women, the charitable men and women, the fasting men and women, the men who guard their private parts, and the women who guard their private parts, the men who remember Allah often, and the women who remember Allah often. For them all, Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. Almost next to the last. I made a mistake again. Number 6, this is the last. But before I move forward, 3 out of 6 verses about women and justice for women of the conclusion of the Quran. It's quite important to keep that in mind. To govern, to inform our theology about gender and the Quran. This is the last verse. The day I have perfected your religion for you, and have completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your way of life. You can tell from the language. That's it. So the companions said, When that verse was revealed, we started crying. We knew it's over, that Muhammad will die. And we will no longer have direct connection with heavens, because obviously it's the last. But I move forward by talking about these concluding verses are quite important to keep in mind in terms of documentation, catering for women's rights, putting men and women as, I find it quite interesting. It's not economic justice, not environmental justice, it's equality between men and women in the message with which the Quran chose to conclude its revelation. How God chose to conclude God's message to Muhammad, talking about women, not anything else. So I thought I could start crying because I'm very passionate about women. My God. Muslims lost God's voice when they lost giving women what is due to women. Done deal. And if Muslims want to get it again, so Debbie, what can move us forward? Women have to be in the forefront, side by side with their husbands, leading the way. That's how the Muslim world can move forward according to the Quran. Done deal. What is this picture about? What do you see, guys? Tell me.
Holiday.
A vacation? A good vacation. Okay, what do you see?
That's a Muslim heaven without the women.
Why?
My God, come on. It has to have a woman there. Okay. It is a big lake, beautiful wine, great fruits. This is really heavens, isn't it? Even for us in America. What do you think this, why is this picture in so many places in Africa? I took this picture with me to Saudi Arabia. And I showed it to some of my friends there.
Water.
That's good. What about this, why this verse got me to think about the Quran? There's so many beautiful verses in the Quran that talk about heavens. Exactly in this very way. Exactly this very way. However, again, how did Muhammad interpret these verses? You know what he said? Again, we need to understand Quran in terms of Quran, in terms of Hadith. Muhammad said, heavens, listen to this, is what an eye has never seen, an ear has never heard of, and a mind has never ever imagined. So he interpreted all of these verses about heavens in the way I just tell. So it's not really a river, it's not really. So what is this? What does this tell you? There's so much waiting for you in the presence of God if you do good. So it's those verses in the Quran that speaks about heavens are not to be taken literally, but to be taken as a metaphoric message from God to people who really were looking for a better life. And nothing can be better life for them than rivers and water, because they did not have that cold water there. They did not. They were missing all of the stuff. So God is telling you, I will be able to satisfy your inner thirst and hunger when you do good and stand up for justice. What will that be? Muhammad said, don't even try to imagine it. Much better for you not to, because you will never be able to do that. So is it about women, naked women running around, or water and cold water? For me, if this is heaven, I don't want it. It's much more than this. But you can be sure of one thing. It is something that will bring delight to your heart and peace to your soul. And will force you to stand up for God, for social justice, and for women. Sorry, not for women too. That's what the Quran says, they have to be orthodox. So my friends, I hope this makes sense to you now. Here is a copy of the Quran I took in Africa, in Chad, when I was there, handwriting. So Okay? So this is my Facebook, my telephone number, my email, and a few sites you can find things about my work. Now we have, how many minutes?
No?
We have 30 seconds to ask questions. Okay, can we get the 5 minutes in very really question that you want to ask?
Yeah, we started a few minutes late, so
Any question?
5
Any
minutes.
question? No question?
Yes,
Yes, yes, sir.
translation of the Qur'an. M.H. Shakir by the Tafriq's Qur'an, which is, I think, a denomination.
It is not bad, it is not the best.
Yeah, well, I just happened to see it, and
Yeah, it is not bad, but it's not the best.
yeah.
The best one is Muhammad Asad, the one I referred to at the beginning. And the lighter copy is really heavy. There's lighter one that you can buy. Or there's another one here. I even don't know the translator, but I love the translation. It's very light one called the Qur'an. Look, take a look at this. So this is very simple. But they like that one.
Yeah.
They're a good index.
Yes, yes. Index here.
No, in the,
Yeah, in Muhammad Asad there is. In this one, no.
was there one, Penrise, classic,
But I don't think, but there is one that I would want you not to read. There is a translation by Muhammad Asad that is, not Muhammad, by Yusuf Ali, that is blue in color. Do not read that one. Do not read it. If you have the blue copy printed in Riyadh, I think, do not read it.
Why?
Why? They have corrupted that Yusuf Ali. No, that's good. That's green. That's green. And the blue one that was done in Saudi Arabia.
I have the green one.
I'm sorry? I would not. Khan. Yeah, the Noble Quran, the translation called the Noble Quran by Khan. My God, it is as worse as the blue copy of Saudi Arabia translation. These are two terrible translations, Muhsin Khan and the Yusuf Ali blueprint translation. They are terrible ones.
Can you explain why really quick? Just
Well, for example, let me give an example. In Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah 1 in the Qur'an, it says, "O God, guide us to the path straight to you, not the path not those whose portion is wrath, nor those who have gone astray." That's the verse. Saudi Arabia added, literally, their own translation, said, "God, guide us to the straight path, not the path of the Jews, nor the path of the Christians." And I say to them, for God's sake, God did not put the Jews and the Christians. Who are you to tell me how I should interpret that verse? This is one example, okay? One example of so many others, by the way. So that's what I say, the character, adding your own theology, your own politics, I will never allow that to happen. And by the way, I want to give the Saudi Arabia the credit. I want to give them the credit to say the truth. The government did not know about this. It was a private company done with millions of dollars. And I know the group of people who brought it to the attention of the Saudi ambassador almost 9 years ago, 8 years ago. And to give them the credit, it's no longer out there. But people who got it have already gotten it. Okay? And they apologized for it, and they no longer print it. So they went back and did a lot of good editing on it. I need to give them the credit. So it's not really intentional that it was done by someone. No one checked it out. It went forward till someone discovered it. Okay? So I need to give them the credit. Muhsin Khan does a lot of his own understanding, the ideology, without checking the data that is there. I hope that answered the question. Yes, sir.
What do you think of the translation by Laleh Bakhtiyar?
I have not seen it. So I cannot speak of something I don't know. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah. You hear me?
I'm Yasmin.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that the descriptions then of hell in the Quran are similarly metaphorical, the way you describe the descriptions of heaven, because they're pretty harsh?
I am willing to say it that way, yes. And it's not me. You know, so many Sufi mystic interpretations of heaven and hell in the Quran have been also taken metaphorically. I say in my own understanding that the worst hell is not being in the presence of God. And the best paradise is when you are in the presence of God. But there's a verse that says exactly that. وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. Faces full of delight for being in the presence, watching their Lord. So this is what I'm talking about. The ability to be in love of God. God in love of you is the heavens that one would want to be in. Nothing more, nothing less. The same thing applies to hell in my own understanding. But again, some people would disagree with that. Some people would disagree with that. Will take the verses from hell and heaven literally. I said yes, some would do. I disagree. I personally disagree with that. But some would take it literally. They would say that you would actually melt into hellfire. But I personally don't understand it in that very way because of this hadith I just mentioned. It's beyond our imaginations. I'm
Your
sorry.
sorrow and your suffering is so great.
I believe so. I believe so. I believe so. I believe so.
Thank you.
Last question.
Now, where does Islam stand on the Christianity and Judaism? I gave a talk on Tuesday about this on campus here. That's a big subject. I believe Islam stands quite positively on the Jews and the Christians being Ahlul Kitab, people of revelation. Ahlul Dhimma, people of covenant. People of covenant. Dhimma means covenant, by the way. The concept of second-class citizen is not that I would agree with defining, but some people would take it that way too.